Got it. All right. Welcome everyone to this Gem Talk. And it's about topic about this idea of being addicted to your phone, right? And I'm sure this is a topic that has actually touched me a lot because actually as I was doing the research myself, I started to really realize how, I guess, attached I was to my phone and how addicted I was to, pretty much anything related to technology and digital, and how distracted I easily became, right? And, for a lot of times, like, this doesn't really come off as a spiritual issue, but I started to realize just how, I guess, distracting it was and how a lot of the quality of my prayers, my quiet times, my relationships, even, my concentration at work would start to, I guess, decline a little bit because of how attached I was to my phone, to my laptop, so all these red dots and notifications. So today we're going to be talking about a topic called nomophobia, right? So I guess before we start, who in this room has actually heard of nomophobia? Anyone? Feel free to write in chat. Anyone ever heard of this topic? Nomophobia. Maybe anyone have some guesses, right? Without Googling. What do you guys think nomophobia means? You don't have any guesses? What do you guys think nomophobia means? Nomophobia. Nomo? No more phobia? Fear of nomo? Ah, Eduardo. No mobile phone phobia, right? And I think that is exactly it, right? Nomophobia literally stands for no mobile phone phobia, right? Which is very interesting, right? It's a very, new generation idea, right? But essentially what it actually means is it's essentially, as it states itself here, it's the fear of being without your phone, right? Or the anxiety when you suddenly have no connection. It's like, when you go on a vacation and you didn't buy a SIM card, so you're like, oh my gosh, I need Wi-Fi. And you're like so desperate for that Wi-Fi. But essentially, there are some interesting statistics that show that like 77% of 18 to 34-year-olds are afraid of being without their phones. And, it says here, right, 77% of people are within 5 feet of their smartphone at all times. So let's just raise their hands here. Who here has their smartphone within 5 feet of them right now? Right in the like, how many of us have their phone right next to them right now, or even holding their smartphone right now? It's pretty much almost everyone here, right? Everyone is holding their phone because it's so hard to be away from our phone, right? Like it's very, very difficult. And I think what's, I don't know if this is sad or good, but, since the pandemic, right, 2020, our digital usage has increased 40% to a staggering 13 and a half hours of screen time a day. I think that's pretty insane, guys. Like 13 and a half hours of screen time. I mean, I thought it was insane when I first saw the data, but then I was like, wait, I am definitely looking at either my laptop or my phone for like at least, 18 hours a day or like 16 hours a day. Because I'm either on my phone or I'm looking at my laptop. So it's like nonstop, 13 and a half hours of screen time, right? Which is crazy to think about because, we used to hear as kids like, oh, you're going to have bad eyesight if you keep looking at electronics. But look at us now, man. We're like glued to our screens. And, if you guys, remember the movie Social Dilemma, or maybe who here has watched Social Dilemma? Has anyone watched this? I think it was a Netflix documentary. Anyone watched it? Yeah, right. It's a pretty good movie, but then when you look at it, right, essentially the main premise of this is that, social media and, maybe not even social media, pretty much any digital app, right, is designed to be as addictive as possible. Like, I know this is a very metric thing, but almost every tech company you work for, what's the number one metric? DAU, MAU, retention, churn, all those kinds of stuff, right? Pretty much every single company's goal is to get the customer to go on their platform every single day or as much as they can. Screen time is one of the metrics that people always look for because Why? These apps are designed to be as addictive as possible, to take as much of your attention as possible, right? And how do they do that? How does the psychology work so that they can be as addictive? It's through this chemical called dopamine, right? So today, guys, what we are going to talk about is three things. As usual, I always have three things. The first part is, am I addicted, right? And what does digital really do to our brain? And why are we tricked into thinking it's enough? Second point is it okay, actually, guys, to use our phone this much, to have this much distractions, and or not? What does God want us to do instead? And the third one, right, is now what, right? Now that we know this, what are we going to do about it? How can we be practically healthier, right? And I think that's that's a good one from Janet, right? Two industries that call their users, right? Illegal drugs and software. So with that, guys, I want us to do a Menti, right? If everyone could quickly open their phone, laptop, whatever, do a Menti for 83788416. Okay, up to you, man. But after the Menti, we'll talk about it, right? And I'm just curious, right? How many hours a day do you guys actually spend on this, right? 83788416. Oh, wow. Man, whoever did that eights was crazy. But dang, man. How many hours a day do you guys spend, right? Weekly average, right? And look at that. 17 people. And if you sum this up, it's already 18 hours of the average. You sum up the average, it's already 18, guys. So we have 30 people so far who responded, right? Looks like overwhelmingly, right? We're spending 4 hours a day on calls. I don't know about you guys, man. 4 hours a day on calls is tiring. I mean, and 4 hours on social media a day, that's actually pretty impressively a lot. Whoever put this number, 9, 10 hours, 8 hours a day, that's, my gosh. And watching as well, right? 3 hours a day. So imagine you finish work and you're watching Netflix for 3 hours, right? I'm sure the social media account is during work hours too. Gaming, chatting, reading, browsing, right? It looks like, just based on this, guys, our screen time looks like it's 18 hours, which is a lot, right? We're only asleep for like 6 hours a day. I guess next question, and I think this one is a funnier question, right? Oh, all right. Since the pandemic, right, guys, do you check your phone within 10 minutes of waking up? Do you use your phone during the toilet? Do you use or look at your phone while eating? Joshua, eating. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Use or look at your phone while driving, right? Or feel uneasy even being 5 minutes without your phone, right? Or, oh, sorry, this is not the right one. There we go. Right. Sorry, percentage is not right. There we go. So feel uneasy even being 5 minutes without your phone, or have never gone more than 24 hours since COVID without your phone, or, I guess stop whatever you're doing immediately you get a notification, compulsively open a specific app when you open your phone and can't live without your phone. If you look at this, guys, right? This is 27 people so far, and like a lot of these have like more than 70, 80% of yes, guys. Like use your phone, 26 out of 30. Use your phone during toilet, right? 25 out of 30 of us compulsively open a specific app. Actually, I'm curious, right, guys? What specific app do you guys compulsively open all the time? Because like I always find myself every time I open my phone, it's always that same Instagram. Wow, Instagram. Immediately, first trigger, immediately WhatsApp, Instagram. Asik, Alfan, Bible app, bohong. Right? So, I think it's so crazy, right? Because it's like almost all of us are using our phones so much, right? And even 22 out of 35 say that we can't live without your phone. So I want to challenge everyone, right? Because I'm pretty sure every single person here is, touching or within 5 feet of their phone. So I'm going to challenge you guys for this talk. How difficult would it be for you guys to just take your phone? I'll give you guys 2 minutes, put it in a drawer, put it in your cupboard, put it somewhere else that you can't physically look at or touch it, right? I'll give you guys 1 minute, put it away and see how you feel even putting it away. Because I know when I tried to do that, I'm like, wow, I feel so uneasy just putting my phone away. All right. So everyone, just put your phone away, right? I want you guys to put in a drawer. Don't touch it, because I know even that for me is hard. All right. So back to the presentation. All right, guys. Okay, so the first point I want to make today, guys, right, is am I addicted, right? And I think this is a very interesting point. What does digital do to our brain, right? How does dopamine work? How does it trick us into thinking it's enough? So let's watch this video.
Dopamine is commonly framed as one of many feel-good chemicals in the brain. But your brain's relationship to dopamine is a lot more complicated than you think. Have you ever wondered why your brain wants what it wants? Well, dopamine is the driving force behind wants and cravings. In other words, dopamine compels you to do whatever you want to do. Imagine you're in the middle of work when your phone dings. You know that sound, you've heard that sound a million times, so your brain responds instantly with a shot of dopamine. Suddenly you feel compelled to check your phone. A burst of excitement and enthusiasm drives your brain away from your work, so you pick up your phone, you check your messages, and realize it's just spam or a text from your mom. That rush of dopamine dies down, you put away your phone and you refocus on your work. When your phone dings again, the cycle goes on. Throughout your life, you may find yourself chasing these bursts of dopamine because the chemical rush is often more exciting than the actual stimulus. Just think about that text message. Wasn't the potential of that message more exciting than the message itself? That's how dopamine works. It fuels your brain's wants and desires, but it doesn't control whether or not you enjoy something. Instead, it pushes you to watch one more episode, click one more profile, scroll through one more page. Rushes of dopamine keep you wanting more, even if each stimuli leaves you feeling disappointed. Now, as you can imagine, chasing dopamine can be a dangerous path. Many people cling to their smartphones and social media because they're searching for their next source of dopamine. Each time you engage with these devices, you get a little rush of dopamine in your brain, and that chemical keeps you coming back again and again.
All right, guys. So just as a summary, right? Essentially, what dopamine is, right, guys? It is the feel-good hormone. It controls your wants and desires, but not the actual pleasure, right? So it controls the anticipation, but not necessarily how good or how that thing makes you feel. It's like how we always want martabak, but then when we take one bite, we're like, oh, actually, it's not as good as I had wanted it to be. But just thinking about martabak is like, oh, it must be so good, right? Because the anticipation is often better than that reality, right? And it peaks at that first bite, that first minute, that first second, right? But it drops instantly after. But it keeps making us want more because we get excited about that idea, right? And each stimulus, but the problem is like each time you get it, it gets less and less enjoyable, right? So here are some examples of dopamine, right? And I want to, One is clickbait titles. I think this is essentially what YouTube, Instagram, all these people are such famous for, right? Because it makes you want to watch the video, right? When you see these clickbait titles or these sensationalized things, it makes you feel like, ooh, what is this? I want to watch more. And then you realize, oh, this is actually pretty stupid, right? But that rush of dopamine got you excited, right? When you watch sports articles, when you watch Instagram, read the news, these are the kind of clickbait titles that get your dopamine excited and make you want to read or watch or do whatever it says, right? So every time you're scrolling, actually what you're looking for is these clickbait things, something to pique your interest, something to like, ooh, what's this? That's actually what you're looking for every time you're scrolling Instagram, every time you're, reading the news or browsing. You're looking for that thing that like gets you excited, right? Other things that, likes to get us excited, right, is when we see likes and comments. I think that's what social media does very well, right? Every time you get that like, you're like, ooh, what's this? Or, Instagram does it very well. Instagram hides what the comment is and just writes, hey, this person commented on your page. So then you're like, ooh, what is this comment? I need to know, And like, that's one of the ways that, it does a great job of keeping you interested or wanting or pulling you in, right? And other things that also pull you in is notification and dots. How many times do you see those red dots and feel compelled to press it almost immediately, right? And I think that's how I feel a lot is, when you get these, yeah, exactly like what Mele said, right? When you get that confetti, when you get this stuff, it gives you excitement, right? And then you kind of strive for that, and that's what you're looking for, right? So it's gotten bad to the point where pretty much every second is a second to be stimulated, right? Every time you're on your app, almost every single app is designed to give you these small micro doses of dopamine because it gets you excited, gets you wanting more. And that's why we're always on our phone, because we're looking for that excitement. But I guess the question and the $1 million question, right, is, am I addicted? Right? When we look at addiction, what do we think of? We think of, gambling. We think of, drugs. We think of, even sometimes gaming or all those kinds of stuff, right? Alcohol, smoking. We think of physical addictions, right? A lot, and most people only see addiction when it's serious, when it's, clearly negatively impacting things around us. But actually, I see digital addiction and this nomophobia more of a spiritual and relational question, right? Is my phone and apps and notifications and all these kinds of stuff actually affecting my ability to maybe make an effort in the relationships around me? Or maybe is it making it difficult to, say, pay attention to calls or Zoom, especially on church, right? I know for myself, right? Sometimes when I'm watching sermon, suddenly I get distracted by my phone and I'm just on my phone all of a sudden, right? Or at the middle of the night when you're trying to do your quiet times, whether in the morning or night, your phone buzzes and then you stop reading your Bible and you suddenly were replying to that WhatsApp and you're like, oh shoot, forgot. Where was I? Right? Like, I know that's happened to me a lot. Is like you get so distracted, and it's preventing us from having this deep relationship with others. And so what does dopamine actually do to us? Well, actually, if I had to summarize, there are three main consequences of this. One is that it kind of prevents us from being able to concentrate. I know for me personally, like I've been on work calls a lot. Because everything's online now, every time I get a WhatsApp notification, a Slack, an email, a notification or something, even in the middle of my call, I'll be so distracted by it and I'll be like replying to that message, even on a call with someone else, right? And it's like, it's gone to the point where it's like, it's really hard to concentrate. And it's also one of the harder or more deeper emotional feelings is that because we're so attached to our phones now, we're kind of scared to be alone. I don't know how many of you guys feel that, but every time you have a deep emotional issue or you felt sad about something, what's the first thing we do? Open our phone and open Instagram or open YouTube or something to distract us, right? Because these digital apps are so good at distracting us that we're actually starting to avoid our feelings, right? We'd rather choose the distractions rather than deal with the emotions, right? And that's the scary part because it's so addictive. One of the quotes in the Bible, one of the verses is Romans 7:15, right? I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. I think this is such a key message about what digital does to us, right? We compulsively open these apps. We compulsively do all things, but we don't really understand what we're doing. We're just doing it. And it's all because of the trickery. So with that, I want to pass this over to Anna for sharing.
Thanks, Marsh. Hi, guys. For you who don't know me, my name is Anna, and I would like to take this time to share with you guys my story about being addicted to social media. I pretty much struggle with social media in many different forms. I think it started to develop ever since Friendster era. When I was 10, I was addicted to replying testimonies, editing my bios with GIFs and etc. I remember kayak the phone bill, because dulu kan pakai phone cable, right, to connect to the internet. Itu sampai blew up like twice or thrice the amount that my mom usually paid, because I kept going on Friendster just to edit kayak my stupid bio, get to take a look at other people's profiles. And just from addiction to that, as I grew older, being on Facebook and Instagram, I started to develop insecurity with the way I look, because I compared myself a lot with the girls that I saw on social media. And I think at the peak of my struggle with insecurity was me being in my senior year of college. I was in a long distance relationship with my then boyfriend. He was in the entertainment industry, and he had kayak many female friends who were dancers, singers, actresses gitu. And I felt the need to keep up with his world. So it led me to post pictures of myself with clothes that were relatively revealing, with the intention to impress and seek his approval gitu. Until I finally got reached out and studied the Bible. And during my Bible study, I joined the church campus. I joined a church campus conference, and one of the classes in that conference was about how to use social media to glorify God. And at that time, that concept felt very kayak foreign banget gitu kan to me. Tapi as I was in my repentance journey already at the time, the concept of using social media for God's glory hit close to home, since I began to understand that as a Christian, we are called to become God's ambassador in everything that we do. So the class really opened up my mind and inspired me to change the way I used social media. So after I got baptized, I grew so much security with God. And as I ended my relationship with my then boyfriend, I took down all the pictures of me wearing clothes that were not very godly. So I remember taking down probably 50 to 70 pictures. And ever since, I also did a fasting here and there to take time off from social media. But my struggle did not end there. I can relate a lot with the verse that Marsh just read to us in Romans 7. As a disciple, I experienced the impact of heavy dopamine intake that Marshall mentioned earlier, due to my lack of self-control when surfing on Insta or TikTok or Pinterest gitu kan. It is also not rare that I use social media as an escape from my feelings. Kayak when I stressed out, I had the tendency to just run away to social media to enjoy funny memes, looking at a bunch of Blackpink videos. Shout out to my fellow Blinks right here, online shopping, rather than running away to God and bringing my emotions and feelings to Him gitu. This past 3 months, I've been planning for Sammy and my wedding that required me to go on IG and Pinterest more than before to look for inspiration. And I totally felt that my Holy Spirit alarm definitely went off to warn me that I've crossed the limit. But a lot of times I snoozed it. I experienced difficulties to focus. I had lack of depth in my quiet times with God, because a lot of times the first thing I did in the morning was opening up my WhatsApp and checking on the vendor inquiries that I made on Insta rather than opening up my Bible app like Alfan does. One night I spent time with Mele, and I feel like it was really God's plan to speak to me through Mele. Mele really inspired me to take a break and fast again from social media, and we eventually did a fasting together for 10 days from social media, from Shopee, from Tokopedia. It was not a long period, but it was a very refreshing time for me to be in tune with God and be in touch with my emotions and my feelings in the midst of the busy time, and be reminded again that God is the only one who can fulfill my emotional needs. Tonight, I just want to encourage us all to know our limits and make sure that we don't snooze the alarm that God has set us for us to keep us from digital addiction and make social media our escape because God is our only escape, and God is the only one that can fulfill our emotional needs. Or Isaiah 26 verse 3 to 4 says, "Those of steadfast mind you keep in peace because they trust in you. Trust in the Lord forever, for in the Lord God you have an everlasting rock. Thank you for letting me share.
Sorry. Give me a second. There we go. Right. Thanks, Anna, for sharing. And just to reiterate what Anna was saying, right? It's like it becomes so addictive, and it's so hard for us to really be able to be at peace, right? So I guess the question is that okay, guys? Do you think? Is it okay for us to continually snooze our Instagram limits, right? Or to continually be on our phones all this time, right? And if not, what does God want us to do, right? Yeah, what does God want us to do, right? So, in Luke 2, verse 52, right? It shows the 4 ways that God likes to grow, that Jesus grew, right? We grew in wisdom, in stature, and in favor with God and with man, right? But I think what has been the most difficult is during COVID, it's actually really hard, Janet. It's really hard to grow in our favor with God and with man, because in COVID, we've had so many distractions with our relationship with God. But it's also been very difficult to grow in our relationship with other people because we're all alone at home, right? And one of the verses that I was reminded about is Psalms 46, verse 10, which talks about, be still and know that I'm God, right? And I think for me, I felt that it was very difficult for me, even myself, to be still, because I was so consumed by these visuals that I was almost never still, right? And what the consequence of that, what the consequence of that was that it made it really hard for me to choose solitude, to go on meditation, to go on prayer, right? I know this is running joke, but like, for example, like I cannot be in like some place of nature because I just don't appreciate enough to stay alone in nature for that long, right? Like, I know that's like a really sad thing, but like I became so addicted to, I guess, these stimulations that for me, nature was boring, right? Looking into a sunset, that's boring. Just sitting on the beach, that's boring, right? Like, and I think that's gone to be quite a problem, right? And I think one of the things that I learned was, right, I have to disconnect to connect. And I've been actually trying to practice that this past week, where essentially I leave my phone behind. I tried to, and I realized that I can start to be slowly more and more free, right? The verse from Job 6:24, teach me and I will be quiet and show me where I've been wrong, right? And I think when we're able to disconnect, when we are able to, just pause and reflect, right? That's where God is going to reveal a lot of things, right? There's this verse from Ram Dass, right? The quieter you become, the more you can hear, right? And I think that's what we want to do, is that we want, hello, Janet, we want to just really be able to just be still and know that God is God and that we need him, and not be so distracted by all these kinds of things. So with that, I want to pass that on over again to Jacqueline to share.
Thank you, Marsh. Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline, and today I'm going to be sharing about how technology has made a positive impact in my walk with God, and that if you use it wisely, also has the power to draw you closer to God and the community. So a little bit about me. I actually just became a disciple a little over a month ago. Tapi honestly, like the past 2 months I faced more trials the past 2 months than I probably did the past 2 years, yeah. Tapi once I've made the decision to surrender my life and heart to God, and also to leave my past self behind, I actually learned to find joy in suffering. Kaya if I faced a trial, I would thank God karena I know that I'm gonna come out stronger, closer to Him, and I know that it's His way of making me whole and complete. Tapi obviously, it took a really long journey for me to get to this mental state, and a journey that was enabled by technology. So for that, I'm very, very thankful. Jadi I went through 11 months of Bible study guided by 2 wonderful women all throughout Zoom. I probably only met them like once in an entire year. So dulu tuh I'm someone who's not really aligned with my emotions. Like I don't know how I'm feeling. And you'd have to ask me 10 questions for me to realize that I'm actually very disappointed today. And I'm also a very shy person. Kaya I get intimidated really easily. And then I'm an introvert juga. Jadi if there's like more than 4 people in a room, I automatically freeze and don't talk. So I think it's a blessing in disguise that we have technology. Well, for me, yeah, karena I feel like I became a lot more comfortable in expressing my emotions through video calls. I was able to cry, to laugh, and I was able to just really rant freely. And this allowed me to be more vulnerable and open to the sisters. In turn, made it easier for them to help me direct back to God. Terus karena everything was done online, we were also a lot more consistent with my studies. And since there's no excuse because we're just one button away. Terus I also got to spend time with a lot of amazing, wise, and supportive sisters all through Zoom. There's a saying, we have been brought into the light that it's better to be well known on social media than to be known well. Tapi the past year, I really learned that it's so much more valuable when you have people who you allow to get inside your heart and also connect in a deeper place. Jadi I was really blessed to be able to hop on calls and video calls with sisters who shared their wisdom, guidance, and referred me back to God's word when I was just getting to know Jesus. I was really moved by how God worked in their lives, sampai I myself wanted to have an intimate relationship with Him. And although I've only met a handful of people in GEM in person, because of technology, I can already feel so connected and welcomed. And in fact, some of these sisters have become my safe space and also my best supporters. Tapi I definitely do understand kayak social media is a huge distraction. Karena last year I switched jobs to actually start the digital presence of a ghost kitchen. Jadi I was basically paid to scroll on Instagram and TikTok. Although some days were very tiring, I really got accustomed to view social media as a tool for inspiration and encouragement rather than a place where I compare myself or for mindless scrolling. Some of the things that I really like to do is use the mute feature on Instagram. Jadi I would mute stories of people who were bad influences or that triggered my worldly desires. And I really try to limit my following to accounts that benefit my growth. For example, like skincare tips atau saham influencers or like Bible quote accounts. And in fact, I read in one of like a blogger who's also a disciple in their bio, it says, if it breaks God's heart, what makes you think it will fulfill yours? And this is definitely something we can keep in mind when we're using technology negatively and not to draw us closer to God. And tying back to Marshall's stillness, I also like to share about the importance of stillness and also how when you want to get peace from God, it has to be intentional from your side also. Jadi, to be honest, I'm like going through a transitional stage in life where I'm trying to switch career path. Terus, I just got out of a 5-year relationship and I was trying to find a community who share the same values. Thank God for GEM. Tapi I feel really blessed that the Holy Spirit has been so gracious to give me the strength to turn to God instead of digital distractions at my time of uncertainty. It's very easy to fall into the rabbit hole of a technology to get like the feel-good hormone, as Marshall said. Tapi it's all artificial and very temporary. Kaya I realized God's word is the true dopamine. Terus, it doesn't have any come down or anything. It's just full on like amazing feelings. So during my time of uncertainty, what I did instead is I opened up to the sisters and I sought advice from them. Terus, I would stop mindless scrolling at night so that I can wake up earlier for my quiet times before my WhatsApp explodes. Terus, we have the internet, so I would look for Bible verses that can help my situation, and also through the sisters you got. For example, last week I was really struggling with feeling guilty of sin. So then I read 1 John. Terus immediately felt reassured and humbled by God's love and mercy for us. And I've been loving, this is a habit that I just picked up a month ago, morning prayer walks before everybody else wakes up. So there's really no distraction at all. Dulu tuh I didn't know how to pray or talk to God. Tapi actually he already knows what we need and he sees our heart. Jadi I would just talk to him as a friend, just curhat to him, thank him for being our strength and ask him to use us for his purpose instead of us using God for our life's purpose. And this point itself, I heard this from a GEM YouTube video. Jadi, which brings me to my next point. Kaya we have YouTube, Google, kaya we can always rewatch sermons that we feel apply to our situation right now. If you're feeling kaya hopeless or insecure, you can even just Google kaya Bible verses for when I'm feeling insecure, and it's all there gitu. We have the resources, and it's really up to us to actively seek it. And why is stillness so important? Well, as humans, we have a very sinful nature. Yeah, if we don't practice stillness, it's very easy to get tempted and desire worldly pleasures. Kaya I went on a trip with my friends without bringing the Bible, thinking that I could open the Bible app. But that did not go so well. I was really inconsistent with my quiet time, and I really found myself slowly falling back into my old self. So I really realized kaya we need the Bible and the community to keep us on track. But I know this is not easy. It takes a lot of effort, tapi I really can guarantee that once you actively make time for God, and if you're given like 2 options and you always choose God gitu, what's supposed to be anxious, frightening, or even stressful suddenly became all right. Kaya in my time of uncertainty, for some reason I felt content and at peace gitu. Karena I know that God allowed everything to happen, yet He's still in control and He still loves us so much. So here's a verse from Ephesians 5, verse 15 to 17. Be careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Jadi I really encourage everyone to ask yourselves, guys, is there something I can be doing with my time to glorify God even more? And also encourage you all to set digital boundaries and intentionally plan our days to serve God. That's it for my sharing. Thank you guys for listening.
Wow, guys, let's give another round of applause for Jack. I think that was such a great sharing. So thank you so much. And I think such great great quotes as well, right? God's the true dopamine, you know, and if it's gonna break God's heart, what makes you think that it'll make yours, right? I think amazing quotes, right? But again, right? I mean, Jacqueline kind of pushes us to the real main point, right? Which is now what, right? I think we kind of understand, we're starting to realize maybe I am addicted, right? I know God wants me to be still, but how do I do that, right? Like now what? Morning prayer walks, like, oh my gosh, like that's so inspiring, but it's also intimidating, right? Waking up earlier just for this, right? Like now what do we do about it, right? So, these are, as usual, I always have 3 points, right? 3 points that maybe we can think about is, 1, maybe we should consider getting a dopamine detox, right? Removing all those unhealthy distractions, right? Whether temporarily or regularly, right? 2, I think this is something that I've started to practice myself recently, is fix your phone, right? Because, if phones and apps are designed to be distracting, we got to fix it. We got to make sure they lose that power of being addictive. And 3rd is adding more interactive elements so that, like Jacqueline, right, you can creatively use technology to grow closer to God and others, right? So let's talk about the first one, dopamine detox, right? Maybe before we even get here, right? I challenged everyone in the beginning who here, actually to put your phone away. And I'm going to ask right here in the chat, who here actually opened their phone and then either opened WhatsApp or Instagram as this talk was happening? Just, everyone, just raise hands. Even I did while someone was sharing, I opened my WhatsApp. So who here actually opened their WhatsApp or Instagram in the middle of the talk? And don't be shy. I think we all did. Right? See how hard it was, right, guys? And what were we doing on Instagram or WhatsApp? Just curious, right? What were we doing? Or did we have a purpose in mind when we were opening Instagram?
Posting Marshall. Sharing in Jam Talk.
Oh my gosh. Right? So funny, guys. Nerd your mom's calls. Just like the video, right, Janet? You got a text, it's just from your mom. But see how interesting it is, right? We got so addicted. And for what? There's not really a solid purpose, right? There wasn't really a solid purpose of, but we just were doing that, guys, right? So why? Why is it important for us to have dopamine detox, right? Just like Jenna said, the moment she got a call, she's like, "Ooh, I gotta look at it. What is this?" Right? My phone's ringing. What is this? That anticipation itself is what's driving her, right? And I think studies show, right, with especially with dopamine, going from abstinence to moderation is so much easier than going from excessive usage to moderation. Repeat one more time. Or maybe do you guys believe this? Let's just put a random poll. Do you guys believe it is easier to go from abstinence to moderation or excessive usage to moderation? Okay. Because the goal is moderation, right? I'm not saying cut out digital. We need digital, right? We need our phones. Like, is it easier to go from abstinence to moderation or from excessive to moderation? Because I would like to say we're all at excessive now, right? Hard, right? And I think that's the purpose of this dopamine detox. It's to go to a place that we can reset our brain's pathways and actually realize how addicted and dependent we really are. Because the moment you put down your phone, when I was doing the research and studies, the first 12 hours are going to be super painful when you put down your phone. You're going to be constantly, oh, like there's this, okay, this is so sad, but there's this, what's it called? There's this syndrome where it's like ghost vibration syndrome or something like that, where essentially like you think your phone vibrated even though it's not, right? Like, I don't know how many of you guys have ever had that, but essentially it's like, you just feel like everything's trying to grab your attention, right? And the point of detoxing is to realize that, oh shoot, it's gone. And when it's gone, what do you do with your time? How do you function without it? Like when you go on a remote vacation, you put your phone away. It's like, whoa, it's very, very, very difficult, right? And how do we do it, guys, right? Well, we can either temporarily do it by fasting entirely from our phone, which I think is kind of difficult in this, COVID work from home culture. If you turn off your phone, you don't talk to anyone, right? But, or we can set healthy boundaries and be mindful, right? But again, abstinence to moderation is easier than excessive to moderation. I only recommend you number 2, likely you're not going to succeed, if that makes sense, right? You're likely not going to succeed if you only just put healthy boundaries. You have to go to abstinence first before you can go to moderation, right? Oh, so I think this is just something for you to think about, right? Dopamine detox can be many things, right? But essentially, the key one is take away your phone, right? So really, this is actually going to touch on the point 2, which is how can we fix our phone to prevent the influences of how social media decides to grab our attention, right? So there are 3 things that I have personally done myself, and I highly recommend it to you guys because it works. On your phone now, I'm sure still 50% of you guys are still touching your phone, right? So if you are touching your phone, cut off all non-human notifications from your phone. I'll repeat it. Cut off all non-human notifications. Anything that's a system message, anything that's a group WhatsApp message, a like, a comment, push notifications, anything that's not human should never appear on your phone. And the motto behind that is you open the app when you want to open the app, not because, you get this notification and then you're compelled to trigger it. Because I know for me, every time I get a push notification, I'm like, oh, what is this? And it's like, it's so distracting because it interrupted my concentration. So I recommend turn off all non-human notifications, right? Only put WhatsApp messages. And even in WhatsApp, actually, I personally turn off WhatsApp DMs. So I don't get any WhatsApp notifications ever. I only open WhatsApp when I want to open WhatsApp. Yeah, it's the same thing with email. And then another one that's controversial, right, is grayscale, especially at night. A lot of us have been using the blue light filter or night mode. Actually, one thing you can try to do is grayscale your phone, but at night. Because if you look at the left side picture, there's a lot of these, red dots, all these kinds of things. And for me, I'm an inbox 0 guy. So I cannot handle red dots. Every time I get red dot, I'm so distracted, I have to click it to remove it, right? And when you actually do grayscale, it no longer takes your attention. It no longer attracts you to these red dots. Like the reason why Instagram has changed colors from their what's it called? They used to be brown. Now they became like red and pink and orange, whatever, because these kind of colors try to grab your attention. Every app has kind of slowly moved to the red-ish thing, right? If you use grayscale, you no longer get attracted by these notifications or these dots. They kind of disappear from your mind and you can be free. And also another point added benefit is when you're on grayscale on Instagram, you're gonna be like, oh, this is stupid. Why am I on this? So it's an added benefit to stop scrolling. And another one, right, is app position. If you look at the clutter, right, one of the things that is heavily recommended as well, and something I do, I actually, you know how we ask the audience, right? How many of us compulsively open the same app immediately when you open that phone, right? I dare you guys for 24 hours, move that app position to another place and see how many times you open the app that replaced, or even better yet, replace that app that you always open, Instagram, that exact same position, put the Bible there, the Bible app, and see how many times you accidentally open the Bible. Like literally because I changed my phones. So I still use my old phone a lot, right? And in the place of that WhatsApp button is the phone button. Oh my God, I keep pressing it nonstop, right? And that's what we mean is remove all these non-daily apps. Instagram shouldn't be on your home screen, right? All these things that you don't need actually don't need to be on your home screen, right? Only things like maybe maps or calculators or things that won't distract you should be on your home screen. Everything else is just in the apps drawer, hidden away, right? That way you can't compulsively open things, and control yourself essentially, right? And one of the theme verses for this month is 2 Peter 1, verse 5-6, right? For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, right? Right now, what we've done is, we've been having to teach you guys knowledge, but now it's up to you guys to do self-control, right? And as you try and do self-control, you're definitely going to have to persevere because it's really, really hard to stop yourself from opening Instagram and WhatsApp and all these kinds of things compulsively, right? So, and lastly, right, guys, add interactive elements. There are 5 things that I suggest. Maybe you don't have to do it, right? But even some things, right? Like for example, gaming. Instead of playing games by yourself, start playing only online multiplayer games with voice, right? When you're on Discord together, it's actually a lot more social than just playing a game by yourself, right? Or if you're just watching Netflix, you're watching your Netflix show by yourself. Instead of doing that, why don't you watch with friends, right? Watch with your people in your same house, right? Or do a Netflix party so that it's at least has a social benefit as well to it. Even for Zoom, right? Instead of using Zoom for work and stuff and all that stuff, use it to casually catch up, right? Always have these always on group calls. I don't know if you guys were in high school and we used to have Skype or all this kind of stuff. We would just have this always on group chat a call that you could just join anytime you wanted and like, hi guys. And then you just put on silent and just hear everyone's voices from the side, right? Like, people can essentially, right, like just casual catch up, right? And have lunch with people on you over Zoom, just catch up. And again, even for spiritual stuff, right? Praying for yourself versus praying for your friends and family. Or reflecting on your QT alone and trying to do QT yourself, why don't you share it with friends or discuss with friends? And I think that's what adds this interactive elements, right? And obviously there's so many other ways, guys, right? But the main point from all of this is digital can be both good and bad. It just depends on how we use it, right? And how distracting it can be is up to you guys as well, right? So with that, we want to have Sammy to share.
Cool. Thanks, Marsh. And thanks for all the rebukes and reminders and also practicals for detoxifying and like just not being addicted to dopamine anymore. And for me, it got really bad to the point that my fingers, like Marshall said, moved on its own. Like I'm not even on my phone anymore, right? I'm on my PC, just trying to do work. And then my fingers go to the browser address and just immediately type youtube.com or like 9gag.com. Now after that, my mind goes blank. And then like, 20 minutes gone, like 15 minutes gone, right? And everything, I accept all the information being fed to my eyes. So it's really bad because for me to work effectively, I need to get like in the zone, to be productive, right? And getting in the zone usually takes a longer time for me because it's hard for me to concentrate. So the whole thing ends up being like a really vicious cycle of getting distracted and getting work delayed, trying to get in the zone. And then my After Effects lags, and okay, I'm gonna wait for this render. And then like suddenly I'll tab 9gag.com, youtube.com, whatever, instagram.com, right? And then like I see my After Effects again. Oh, 20 minutes has passed. Oh, okay, render's done. And then I do something. Oh, it's rendering again. Okay, immediate. So it's like a really bad thing going on, right? And what's worse is that this could also this could also affect or reflect my relationship with God as well. And like I said, my fingers immediately go to a YouTube or IG or whatever in the morning, right? So I get distracted and lose my number one time with God first thing in the morning, like Anna was saying just now. And this is bad because that means I'm idolizing my distractions, right? And this is something that really convicts me because like in Matthew 10, verse 38 to 39, it says, whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. So whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. So me being addicted to dopamine, me being not having self-control in my actions, my distractions and everything, seeing this verse convicts me because it immediately calls me out in my carrying of the cross. Do I prioritize my life over the cross? Do I prioritize my 9gag? Do I prioritize my YouTube? By whatever, everything. Because if I do so, then I'm not worthy of Jesus, as it says here. And why go so far in life to end up being far away from Jesus and salvation, right? Because ultimately, like, what's life in this world? It's just a passing through and temporary, and salvation and the final thing is with God. So why am I not making every effort to fulfill my calling in that area, right? And in the end, it goes back to my heart. And who am I trying to become? And if I keep doing this, I won't become a disciple that God's happy with. So what do I do then? I think this is a verse that Marshall, the next one is that on screen, is a good reminder that will always convict me in my habits, right? So from Matthew 5, verse 30, and if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. So again, what's the goal here, right? Is heaven, salvation, right? You don't want to go to hell, right? So, and in this case, it means that I should cut off my arm, not literally, but then like I should cut off my 9gag, I should cut off my YouTube. And in the process of getting my heart right, I have to be extreme with what I do. How do I cut off those things? I add blockers to potentially distracting sites I visit, and I go on fast to really straighten back my heart with God. And that blocker, like stayfocused.com, it actually helps a lot because you can set a time and you can set a limit on how much you visit, and it actually tells you to be and it goes hey, you're supposed to be working, don't get distracted. It says that on the screen, right? So that also helps me out with the blockers and everything. But fasting as well, and detoxifying my life from the daily dopamine intake that I'm so used to, and realigning my focus on who God wants me to become, someone who puts him as number one instead of number two. And that's the reason why I really do those things. And as a result, when I do those things, right, and I'm only aligning my priorities right with God, I can concentrate more, I can focus more, I can get less distracted because I've already set up blockers digitally and in my head as well, like what Jacqueline said with her boundaries. And I think this is what really helped me as well, is that in fasting and really cutting off all those distracting whatever is distracting digital assets, is to also have an objective for the fast, right? So right now, what I'm really fasting for is for my wedding that's coming up, and for God to make a way for PPKM to lessen, and we can so that we can have I guess like wedding with more guests, So, and that also adds more objective to my fast. So I really recommend you guys to try at least put up blockers, even delete the app if you need to for your finger to not be able to ever reach those apps for like just a certain period of time. Then maybe after like 3 weeks or like so, then your your mind starts to refresh again, and you're not so dependent on those daily dopamine intakes anymore, right? So and then and I just want to close with, like, other than you refreshing your mind, God also sees it. God is also seeing your effort in doing those things for your sake with Him as well. So yeah, I think I encourage you guys to try and do so, and yeah, I hope that helps.
Awesome. Thanks, Sammy. And it's so true, right? Like, again, guys, we need to cut off what we need to cut off, right, guys? Remember, abstinence to moderation is easier than excessive to moderation, right? And I think, when you're distracted and you find yourself, shoot, man, I can't concentrate anymore. I'm so distracted. Cut it off, man. Try it out. I even recommend you guys to do random things like leave your phone in your room when you go, when you're on your computer at work throughout the day, right? When you're going down for lunch, don't bring your phone with you. There's like all these kinds of things, but even those small things are hard, right? Even when you go to the toilet, don't bring your phone, man. Like it's so difficult, but try these small things. And when you do, you start to realize, shoot, why can't I even do something as simple as this, right? Am I really this addicted, right? So again, guys, the thing that I want to do, right, guys, is, we take this idea of nomophobia. Let's change nomophobia from no mobile phone to no more phone. All right, nomophobia, no more phone. Okay, guys. So with that, I think that was it. So after that, we're gonna do breakout room questions. We have 4 main questions, guys, today. And the goal of the breakout rooms today is meant to be very interactive, meant to be very discussion-y and fun, right, guys? So just brainstorm amongst your group, right, guys? What are some telltale signs of being addicted to your phone, right? Would you say you're addicted? Number 2, right? What are some consequences you feel from being so attached, right? I mean, all of us have consequences with digital. And what makes it so difficult to stop, right? And maybe number 3, what are some healthy boundaries you can put? Or even number 4, like with Jacqueline, right? What are some creative ways to still grow in your connection with God and others despite COVID happening? So with that, we're gonna open up for breakout room questions. Here, let me copy the questions. Let me copy the questions and in the chat. All right. Cool. Thanks, guys. And we're going to be opening out breakout rooms.